Girls podcast. I'm Simone.
And I'm Anne.
And today we're going to be talking about, first, the Free Brittney movement. I don't know if you know anything about the Free Brittney movement.
Yeah, I saw it. I thought, it's not over? I didn't. I thought it was over, because,
Well, that's what I wanted to talk about, is that they just got the power of attorney and, the protective order switched over to her little sister.
Okay.
So now her, Jamie Lynn Spears.
Yeah, Jamie Lynn.
So now it's, out of the hands of her abusive father. She's no longer going to have to be forced to take medicine to be compliant. The millions aren't in... her father, beat one of her children, which is why the protective order got moved in the first place.
Yeah.
I'm just happy for her,
I didn't even know that was a thing in the first place. That if, someone deems you, apparently psychologically incompetent enough, someone could basically just take over everything for you without your control. That's...
Yeah. Well, do you watch Black Mirror?
A few episodes. I've seen now and then, but...
That Ashley O episode is about... That Miley Cyrus started?
Yeah.
That's about Brittney Spears.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Now I get it.
That one is about Brittney Spears. I highly recommend the episode. It's very good. Miley Cyrus is a tremendous actress.
But, so this is, an actual law, though, right? This is,
Right, so she was deemed incompetent after she had a meltdown. The 2007 meltdown.
Okay.
She was deemed incompetent and they just kept... It was only supposed to be for a couple years, and then they just kept... judges kept allowing it to go forth because she was on so many medications, and whenever she would appear in court, she would be, dreary, downtrodden, and, absent, but she was being medicated so heavily that, she couldn't do anything. And then when she spoke out to, people who were doing... she would talk to her friends, and they'd be they'd get onto the Free Brittney movement, and then her dad would sue them. And then her dad was her manager, and she was also paying him $1 million a year on top of her. And so that's also... Her dad had always been her manager, but so naturally it was of him to be her protective order. The mom was on the Free Brittney movement. The mom was trying to would testify against her ex-husband. And then she so the biggest thing that kind of sparked the Free Brittney movement for everyone else is the Ashley O episode, but hearing Brittney sing when she was younger.
Yeah, I saw that the clip. It's she sounds so...
She sounds like Christina Aguilera. And, so the thought is that, well, I guess this is all rumors, but that she and Christina Aguilera were about to come out with albums at the same time, and her father and her producer just thought it would be better for her to change her voice, which is why she lip syncs so much, is because her vocal cords are so damaged from singing in a way that's not her voice. And she wanted to get the protective order changed mostly because she doesn't want to perform anymore. She's tired of performing, but with her dad making all of the things and wanting more money, she can't stop performing, and that's what she really wants to do, is just to stop performing and to have custody of her children again. And speaking of, did you know that Kevin Federline was a real person?
What? No.
Yeah,
Wait,
that's
what?
Really the father of her kids is a real life Kevin Federline. I thought Kevin Federline was only on the Cleveland show.
Yeah. Wait, how did you find...
Well, because I was reading articles about it, and I was her and her ex-husband Kevin Federline. I was I'm sorry, Kevin Federline's a real human? I just thought it was a person on the Cleveland show.
That's a meme. That's a meme right there.
I didn't know Kevin Federline.
No.
And he's the father of her 2 kids.
Huh.
I didn't know Kevin Federline was a real human. But I guess we didn't we weren't teenagers in the 90s, so.
No, yeah. Which was when... I'm trying to think what was her big high when we were Probably Circus. I think I remember Circus. That was about it. But all the other ones before.
Well, I happen to really enjoy Britney Spears music. But
Toxic?
Is it Toxic?
Right. I love Toxic.
I mean, combined with the fact that a lot of her music is about being free.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of on, like, the judges for being... I mean, because she was allowed to write her own music as long as it fit into the criteria. Mm-hmm. And she wrote about literally being freed all the time. Mm-hmm. And nobody was like, it's okay.
That's why I don't understand why they don't take into consideration the medication part. Like, that has no... grounds in the case?
Well, the problem is that the doctors signed off on the medication.
Okay.
And the doctors were saying that she needed it.
Yeah.
And if a doctor's saying she's needed, they're not going to be like, oh, well, this is just how she has to be. Even though she was perfectly fine and they took her off the medication to perform. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I'm happy that some judge was finally like, they could have just gotten rid of the protective order, in my personal opinion. Yeah. But if we're going to not get rid of it, at least transferring it to her sister.
Mm-hmm. Especially because, again, this is someone who was abusive. You said, like... Wow. Scary world.
Scary world. Even scarier world is the Cuties movie that's on Netflix.
I'll be honest, I have been trying to stay away from this as much as possible because as soon as you told me, like, I saw your texts about it, as, like, a teacher, I was automatically like, I am not even going to...
Well, yeah, I mean, I read this article about it that was saying that there's much worse things about it than just showing this, like, child... I refuse to watch it because I don't want to get arrested. But
yeah. Great, that tells me a lot about it.
well, I was listening to another podcast yesterday, and she was like, she watched the film, and I was like, bad idea. And then she was like recounting some of the things that happened because I haven't heard of everything that's happened in this film, but she was reading an article about it where it said that a child exposed their bare breast on camera.
Okay, yeah.
And she was like, I completely thought that was an adult. I thought, like, an adult did this, which just goes to show that this show is not really supposed to be children. Yeah. They're like, that they're not trying to make them childlike in the slightest. They're trying to... But I also read an article that said that it's having this show is more like grooming children and teaching them it's okay to do sexual favors for other people to get what they want. Because apparently in the show, she wants the main character wants a phone from her uncle, and so to get the phone, she starts stripping.
Okay.
And, that's what she's doing in order to get things she wants from... So it's she eventually gets the phone. Yeah. So says the article, because I've never seen this. But they're saying that, that's the kind of grooming that it's doing, is teaching people that it's okay, and young girls that it's okay to do sexual things to get what you want out of people. Which is not okay.
Yeah. No, not at all. And, interesting. I was actually... That's the only way I've been learning about this, too, as well as through other people's, videos and podcasts. And a common thing I'm seeing is people, there was an argument from the creators and from Netflix that the purpose of this was to show the hypersexualization of young girls and young children in general in our society. But a lot of people, their point that they keep bringing up is that you need to have, you need to ask yourself when you're showing those certain scenes, the ones that you just mentioned, is that necessary? And just the more I hear about it, the more I'm saying, I don't think it's necessary. I think you could have still gotten a message about hypersexualization without.
I mean, they've done. I've watched. Well, my parents listen to this, so I guess I shouldn't say this, but I've watched documentaries on like the porn industry, and do they show porn? No, they're just like. They're like, here are the people. Here's what happens. Like, they just describe it. They're not like showing porn in a documentary. There were ways to do this that weren't sexualizing girls further. I'm gonna get off the story here in a minute, but unless you have really anything else you want to say about it.
Honestly, no. Like I said, as a teacher, this is always like a subject for me that I just would not be able to put my headspace in that video. No, I could not watch it.
Well, if this will make it worse, 600 girls auditioned to be like the extra people in the dance group, and all of the producers are like middle-aged men.
No, that's wow.
600 girls, and their parents let them.
Yeah,
their parents just let them.
Well, that's the scary part. That kind of goes back to our first topic, that long kind of, there's always been this long history with media of parents kind of just using their kids for a quick way to get into media, to get into to movies and all. It's it's concerning, in my opinion, but.
It's kind of like the idea that they're saying that Cardi B should make music should make child appropriate music, but like really parents shouldn't let their kids listen to anything. Like my dad, until I was maybe 15, made us listen to clean versions of songs because he didn't want us exposed to that. And I mean, and still to this day, some songs I only know the clean version of because I only listened to the clean versions, because as a parent, that's something you should be doing. But yeah. So, on the topic of adults, we're going to go to the forced hysterectomies in immigration prisons.
Yeah. So, I'm not sure if you've seen any updates with that at all. So basically, a woman who was working or was somehow connected to one of these immigration detention centers basically came out and said, they're doing these forced hysterectomies on women without their consent.
Okay. I have questions.
Yes.
I don't know if you have answers.
Yes.
How are they doing it without their consent?
So, for one of the cases that I read where someone actually stepped forward and confirmed this was that she, like a routine doctor visit, like she was complaining about menstrual cramps, and she automatically went to the thought of, as you know, stress affects your cycle. So with her, she went to this doctor to get this checked out, and I guess they recommended a medical procedure, and then afterwards they told her, by the way, we basically went through and dissected your uterus, so good luck having kids. And that was pretty much the from what it's coming out. We don't have a lot of information yet, but from what it's seeming like is a lot of just doctors recommending some sort of like surgery or medical treatment for, and then sliding that in there.
So, question. Does this not violate the Hippocratic Oath that they took?
Oh, yeah, it does. Think about the history of America this goes back to the eugenics movement.
Yes.
So we're at a point where, I mean, this is happening. It's and people are like surprised about it, but I have to ask people, like, I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be angry, but
where we were headed, like, where America was headed in our like fascism was headed there.
Yeah.
For some group of people, I mean, that's just, so I just don't understand how ethically you could be like, I swear to, I don't know what the Hippocratic Oath is, but I swear to, like, do right by people, and I swear to, like, only do what's medically necessary, and then be like, oh, let me just take your uterus with me.
Deep down, I truly believe this, those people don't see them. I mean, this is, again, going back to the racism that never died in America. They don't see them as people with rights. And
I mean, just basic, like, human right, like, maybe, sure, they personally don't have the right to unreasonable searches and seizures, because Americans, they're not, like, American citizens, but they do have the right to autonomy over their body.
Of course they should have it. Yes, definitely. But we're talking about a country that it's maddening, it's disgusting that we're in 2020 and it's still happening. I think that's the thing that we can take about. It's still happening. That, again, just like thinking back to the eugenics movement, I mean, the purpose of that was the same thing. Was they believed that, white race is the one that needs to thrive. They're intelligent, so therefore we need to keep that race going. And people of color we have the right to, because they don't, like, only white people get this right to thrive.
And white skin is a mutation.
Exactly.
It's a mutation!
Thank you.
Gosh, if life started at the equator, why are you light-skinned? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
Not the point. Totally not the point. But I feel bad. Like, I don't know how to express the deep, like, anguish I feel for these women, that even if they're, I mean, right, like, we're kicking them out of the country they're trying to seek asylum in most of the time. They're trying to seek asylum most of the time, and we're like, oh, but by the way, like, even we're going to kick you back to your, like, country you were trying to flee from, but then you also can't have kids. Like, screw you all the way, like, all the way up and down. It's not that we just want you out of our country, it's that we want you out of our country, and we don't want you to ever have more of you. And I just don't know how, I don't understand how anyone can feel so strongly against another race of people that they would sign off on this and be like, oh, that's okay. Like, how do you, deep in your soul, feel like this is what needs to happen?
Honestly, it's the definition, in my opinion, I've always said it's the definition of evil. Like, that's the only way I can consider it, because it's one thing when, like, you read about it and you're like, there's no way, like, people are, like, thinking like this. And then, as someone who likes to, I go into the comment section of Facebook, and people tell me don't do it. But then you start to see the comments, and there's people out there that...
Yeah, and that's the scary part. It's like, it's no longer a few. It's now the many. And do I believe that the majority of people, like, don't agree with this? Probably not. Like, I think the majority of people are good people. But I also think that 30% of people are bad people, and that's a high number. Because, you see in the comment section of Facebook posts that people are like, serves them right, they deserve it, or we don't want more of them anyway, or they have too many kids in the first place. Like, that's, first off, racist. Second, evil. Third, you're, like, literally, if I believed in hell, you would go to it.
Oh, yeah. I say that all the time. As a Catholic, like, who actually has read the Bible, I'm saying this right now to all you very extreme Christians right now. If you're reading about this, if you're seeing this, and you think that there is absolutely no problem. Like, that is excusable. Honestly, again, I can only think of evil at that point.
Evil. Pure evil. And it's just, where did it come from?
Generations passed on. It's hate just passed on from generation.
This is not something that is actually on the list of things we're supposed to talk about, but it's something that goes with the just like plain pure evil. Because SIDS is a problem that primarily affects African American children, and there's no research into there. They're just like sudden infant death syndrome, and like they're just okay. Like, it's that kind of thing. It's like, why? How can we not? We're literally innocent black babies are dying, and you're like, that doesn't need to be researched. SIDS. Like, how? Like, just how are you that cruel that this poor innocent thing that like maybe is a few months old deserves to die because you don't feel like you don't think that research is important? Like, it's so important. Not the point.
No, it's definitely it's
just one of those things where you're like, you have to at some point realize that people are just evil, and not most people, not all people, but a good portion of people,
a significant number,
are just evil.
And that's why we're where we're at today. Again, this is sadly something that's it shouldn't be surprising because this has been going on for decades.
But there was a while there that we were like, this is getting better, and then there was a sharp, marked turn, and it got significantly worse. How are we openly, this is just on an aside, but how are we openly as a country against the, like, for the protests in Hong Kong and against the protests in our own country when they're kind of protesting the same thing here? But yeah, I don't know. I'm just upset. This was a negative podcast.
No, I mean, we have to talk about the, I can't always be positive. I would love for it to be, but
yeah, well, anyway, America. You ever watch Bernie Mac?
Yeah.
Where he's like, America. Okay, well, our last topic for the night is CPS is starting the 2020-2021 school year with remote learning.
I wish I had good news for this one too, but it's not good news either.
Well, it's better than them going in person. That's good news.
It's better than them going in person, but now that digital divide that Chicago claimed that they were going to fix, they haven't fixed it.
Yes. That is true.
When they were looking at the numbers this week, they saw, attendance has improved compared to when we were doing this last year. Attendance has definitely increased. But when they broke it down by schools, that completely changed when, again, you were looking at more inner city schools, low-funded schools. So I guess the biggest issue now is we are in September. We are starting school. They claimed they were going to have this ready to go, and it's not ready to go.
Well, I don't know what else they could do. Not that I'm saying that there should be... I think the same problem applies to to private schools also. Not necessarily private, private primary schools, but for colleges where you're taking out loans, they didn't really care about the low income people who maybe don't have the access and have been utilizing the school for that access. Because it's a pandemic. we could really be giving people modems, free Wi-Fi billed to the government. Like, I don't, and do I think that should last forever? No, of course not. But it's a pandemic. Like, we're not just, and you're forcing people to not be in school. Not that I think they should be in school, but you have to understand that you have to make adjustments for the now people who are going to be. But I mean, your school's in person.
My school's in person, but mine's a private school. So we get away basically with anything, including slowly killing the rest of the country. The issue, I think, though, with as far as the CPS school, this digital divide, if you know the history of CPS, especially going back to before Mayor Lightfoot, when we had Rahm Emanuel, Chicago has always had this history of funneling money away from neighborhood schools that are particularly in neighborhoods of color and low-income neighborhoods. So the fact that we are still seeing a digital divide within those neighborhood schools, it's very alarming and it's concerning. And I think what a lot of people are worried now is that CPS is going to keep focusing on that high attendance in those more upper middle class white neighborhood schools. And as usual, low income and neighborhood of color schools are going to be pushed to the side. And I think that's what people's biggest concern is right now. Their solution so far has been I guess some of the principals have been going out to make sure people are attending for students who haven't logged on yet.
Okay, but you can make sure, like, you can come to my door all you want, but if I don't have internet, I'm not getting on.
Exactly.
Like, give me internet, principal. Like,
exactly.
Also, how are you just going to roll up to my house? First off. Second, you are probably not a principal from the neighborhood, and you do not know.
From what I understand, they're also coming with, like, a security guard.
Yes, because you know what I need rolling up into low-income neighborhoods and neighborhoods of color? A security guard and a principal. Mm-hmm. Like, that is, okay. All right. Right.
This is the history of, I mean, this has been a problem in CPS even before Rahm Emanuel, as far as just taking away money from these schools and then at the same time upping, like, use of security guards, use of just punishment over any...
I mean, well, so they pay teachers in this, in Chicago, not in the state. In Chicago, very well for as far as teachers' pay goes. So we have money to pay teachers, but we don't have money to fund the school. Like, normally they do the funding school, and they're like, teachers, you can...
But that's the issue here, and so CPS is technically one big district. It's one big district, but the money is divided into just based off, like, what neighborhood is, each school goes in, because if remember that these schools are funded based off of
property tax.
So,
but if it's one big district,
but that's what people are saying. Like,
so who's cheating the system? Because if it's one big district and it's based on
we don't have and this has been an issue too. We don't have a elected school board. We have an appointed school board.
Whoa, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So that's the number one issue.
Who decided that? How long has that been?
Oh, that's been for a while. That's like, we've never fixed our the effects of redlining. Never fixed that.
Never once fixed the effects of redlining.
So we're extremely segregated. And then the other issue has been closing down of neighborhood schools. And when we say public schools in Chicago, that doesn't necessarily mean your traditional, like, neighborhood, publicly, like, connected school. That includes privately owned charters. That includes magnet schools. So that the issue is, I mean, honestly, this is, people have an agenda, and the agenda is to, unfortunately, keep that money away from certain people and keep it in the hands of only a few people that they, so
I mean, and it's pretty easy to tell, like, right, like, I live on the north side of Chicago, like,
that's
the nice side. I live on the nice side of Chicago, and, like,
nice.
Comparatively, the buildings are nicer.
Yeah.
And that old folks home across the street is great.
Yeah.
But, so I live on the north side, and then, like, just infrastructure-wise, crossing into the west is, like, a world of difference. Mm-hmm. Like, it, and until you can't, like, until you fix just basic, like, principles of living, like, what, there's a Mariano's across the street, and, like, where I used to live, there was a Whole Foods. Like, just, but the further west you go, it's, like, just Jewel Osco's.
It gets even less than that. I mean, you go into neighborhoods, and we're known for our food deserts here. No grocery stores. Only fast food available.
I mean, it's a marked difference. Until they can acknowledge that, like, something's wrong, they're not going to ever be able to fix it.
And then they wonder, well, why can't, like, you know, why do we have, like, low attendance? Why don't we have more people, like, graduating? Like, if you're not investing in the schools, if you're not investing in the neighborhood, how do you think that affects people psychologically?
I mean, well, and then you just completely ignore the fact that some people have to work for their families. Mm-hmm. Like, not everybody has the luxury of mom and dad having jobs that support them all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
say that like I didn't have my parents, but my dad's an engineer, so I was fine.
Oh, nice.
I know. My mom's
did not know that.
My mom works for Child Protective Services though. Oh. So we were always like, kids have it worse because my mom worked for Child. She also worked for Adult Protective Services. She is a social worker.
Oh, that's cool. I did not know that.
Yeah. My dad's an engineer. My mom's a social worker. Yeah. I bought my mom a shirt for her birthday that says Black Social Workers.
Oh, that's so fun.
She loved it. I mean, if I would have bought one for my dad for engineers if I thought he would wear it, but he would have just laughed at me.
Oh.
He wants a hat, though.
Get him that hat.
Black engineer hat. I mean, he's pretty... He likes his job, I guess. I don't know what he does. I just know he's an engineer. I can tell you what my mom does, but I can't tell you what my dad does. He won't tell us what he does either, so we've decided he's a spy. I mean, he's frequently traveling to other countries.
I mean, think about it. Engineer is a broad category.
Yeah, it's a pretty broad... Yeah, he's a spy.
There we go.
He's a spy. Well, anyway, enough of that topic. This has been the Two Shy Girls podcast. Don't forget to follow us on our social media, YouTube at Two Shy Girls, Twitter at Two Shy Girls, and Facebook.com/Two Shy Girls. Yeah, and this has been fun. It's been real, but it hasn't been real fun. See you later, guys.